Hello again. Welcome once more. My name is Juan John, and I'm here to talk to you about the Bastion soundtrack. So, I recently saw the Bastion for sale on the Nintendo Switch, and I decided to buy it because I bought this game on literally every platform it's come out on, and I love it. But we're not here to talk about the video game. We're here to talk about the soundtrack. This was made by Darren Korb, and honestly, I can say without a shadow of a doubt that Darren Korb is straight up one of my favorite musicians out there doing work. Regardless of, I don't even know if he does things out of video game work, but everything he's done in the soundtrack world for video games for Supergiant is excellent. And this is no exception. The Bastion original soundtrack clocks in at around an hour and contains a majority instrumental tracks with a couple of vocal performances. There are 4 in total, and there's one sort of tone setter piece at the beginning that I guess counts. Okay, so I guess technically there's 5 vocal tracks in total, but the first track is a tone setter, and it's more a reminiscing on the state of the world. Minor spoilers for the Bastion, no real story beats, but there are some spoilers for some events that happen in the game. The game starts off in this post-apocalyptic world where this event called the Calamity happens, and you don't really learn about it at the beginning. You are just thrust into this world, and the album sort of sets itself up in a similar way. It's the narrator, who goes by the name of Rux, talking about how he's gonna miss the music of Caelondia. He's gonna miss watching people dance and perform, and it's a tone setter just saying that the world has changed irrevocably, and a good number of people are gone now. Towards almost the majority of the game, we only really see 4 living people. We have the narrator, Zolf and Zia, and we have the kid, our silent protagonist. And those are the only people we see for the majority of the game, and this is put in through the first track on this album, on the soundtrack, Get Used to It. And after that, we get into the soundtrack in itself, and it's excellent. The entire soundtrack has this authentic Western feel. It has a bunch of acoustic instruments with minimal processing, and what processing there is feels natural, almost like it. I honestly can't tell if this is processed in such a way that it feels like it could have been achieved possibly, or if Darren Korb actually went out and just made everything acoustically, because there are certain noises that could be, like, if you've seen some of the noises people can make if they take, like, say, a violin bow and, run it across steel wire or stuff like that. It feels like Darren Korb could have made these noises like that, or he could have made an approximation so good that it feels like he did that. I honestly can't tell, but there's just, this entire soundtrack has an authentic Western feel, but it also has a bit of a flair because there are these strange and bizarre noises that come almost out of left field unless you've played the game, in which case this is, the world of the Bastion is a sort of almost fantasy-esque Western, which fits its narrative well, and that's honestly one of the best things I can say about this soundtrack. This soundtrack fits the world perfectly. Every time I hear a track, it's taken me directly back to where I was in the video game. Like, there is this one track, the Terminal March, which is almost this upbeat, playful dance tune, but seconds within the track, it shifts to a much more sinister drum beat, and there are these distorted metallic noises that I'm not sure if are some sort of electric guitar heavily processed, or, like I said, him just taking a bow and running it across steel wire or something to create these distorted, harsh tunes. But it takes this song from playful dance music to something tense and pulse pounding, and this entire soundtrack is like that. There are moments of downtime that raise up into more pulse pounding moments, and just listening to this music takes you back to the video game, and it is incredible. Even the less actiony music is in its own right excellent. The one of my favorite tracks is the Soul Regret, because it's this very somber, very sad piece that just sort of puts the whole calamity in focus. The level it belongs to is incredibly somber as well, and it's just this soundtrack just this soundtrack can evoke emotions that usually I don't feel in a game. It's like just trying to explain things in front of a camera is difficult. This soundtrack is excellent. This soundtrack brings me listening to this soundtrack brings me back to the video game, and even if I didn't play the video game, this would still be excellent music. The first time I actually bought the Bastion, I bought it on PC with the soundtrack included, and I didn't have enough time to play the game, but I did have enough time to upload the soundtrack to my phone, and it was an experience that had me sitting down the next day to play the game fully in its entirety in one shot. And I have repeated that basically every time I've purchased this game, and it is great. Now then, for the most part, this hour-long soundtrack contains instrumentals, but like I said earlier, there are 5 vocal tracks, 4 if you don't include the sort of tone setter narration piece at the beginning. The songs are just excellent. There are 2 songs sung by in-game characters. 3 songs are sung by in-game characters, but only 2 appear in the game. We have Zia's theme, which is a talk about her sort of building up of city, and how it's sort of talking about how she doesn't really have a place to belong. She has to build it. She has to create something for herself because she doesn't have it, and other people coming to that thing she created because they don't have a home as well. Whereas Zolf's, sort of narration piece is talking about going home, about finding the home that is built, that his family's home, and going back. And these songs tie beautifully in with the characters' arcs and their own stories. And then there's the ending credits, setting sail, coming home, and it's oh gosh, the ending credits theme is one of my favorite just songs in the game, period, because it does something with previous music, with previous songs. It mixes them together in such a way that it makes total sense, but at the same time, it takes 2 songs that by themselves are excellent and fantastic, and then meshes them in together, and they work perfectly, and you're like, oh, these songs were meant to be together. They could be... sorry. Just lost my train of thought. They can be separate, but they can be meshed together, and they are greater than the sum of their parts, and they are excellent. And the final track is a track that is only available in the soundtrack. It's called The Pantheon Ain't Gonna Catch You, and it's Rux, the narrator, talking about the pantheon of the gods with this sort of playful, if heretical view of them. It's like, I don't know if this song is making fun of them or trying to be like a piece of advice or both, but it's just an excellent little tune that I really like, and I would have loved to see them have somehow put it into the game itself. But then again, this could be like a soundtrack only thing that they made exclusively for the soundtrack, or maybe it was supposed to be in the game to begin with and they just couldn't find a place to put it. I don't know. But this is also an excellent song. It's a sort of almost nursery type tune talking about the gods and how they aren't going to protect you if you're being an idiot. And I like it. It's great. Anyways, The Bastion is just an excellent soundtrack. Even if you haven't played the game, I would give it a stream. But if you have played The Bastion, which I totally recommend you do, it is a fantastic game. This is a must-buy. I totally suggest you buy it. I would, put some sort of, link to a physical version, but unfortunately, as far as I can tell, the vinyl collection has been sold out, or else I would have purchased it immediately and been waving it around. But there is going to be a collector's edition for all of Darren Korb's Supergiant music coming out soon, and that's... I might try to pick that up. It's costs a bit much, so I don't know about that. But anyways, Bastion the soundtrack, 10 out of 10 soundtrack. If you love the game, buy it physically. If you have no interest in the game, but the idea of a sort of Western flavored fantasy sort of soundtrack with a heavy emphasis on the Western sounds intriguing to you, totally give it a stream and then buy it anyways because it's excellent. Anyways, that's been me, Juan John. If you like this video, like it, and if you disliked it, there's a button for that too. Comment, subscribe, ring the bell. Have you played the Bastion? Tell me what you think. Have you listened to the soundtrack? Tell me what you think. If you got any improvements, any ideas, tell me what you think as well. Alright, I shall see you all later. Goodbye. And I do not remember if I synced this, so yeah, let's try that.